On the crystal world of Avaris, perfection was law. Every tower was smooth, every road was exact, every citizen was measured from birth. Strength, balance, speed, and symmetry decided everything. Rank, duty, and even the right to form a life bond. To the people of Avaris, a bonded pair was not romance. It was purpose. Two lives joined to strengthen the whole species. And Lyra did not fit. She was born smaller than the others, with one leg that never grew correctly. She could walk, but not fast. She could stand, but not long. Her mind was sharp, her memory flawless. But on Avaris, the body mattered more than thought. From the day she entered the public halls, the glances began. Not cruel, not angry, just empty. Lyra learned early that silence could hurt more than words. At bonding age, every young adult stood before the council to be evaluated. Most were matched within days, some within hours. Lyra waited. Days became weeks. Weeks became seasons. Her name was called again and again, only to be dismissed. Genetic inefficiency, limited mobility, low contribution potential. The words were spoken calmly, as if reading the weather. Lyra nodded every time. She did not cry. Crying was seen as weakness, and weakness already defined her. She lived in the outer rings of the city, where the towers were shorter and the lights dimmer. From her balcony, she could see bonded pairs training together, working together, on planning futures that would never include her. At night, she wondered what it felt like to be chosen. Not needed, not useful. Just wanted. But on Avaris, wanting had no value. The day the humans arrived, everything changed. Their ships did not shine like Avaris crystal. They were rough, marked by heat and repair. The aliens of Avaris watched with quiet judgment as the newcomers landed. Humans were strange. They were physically weaker than most Avaris citizens, and their movements were uneven. Their skin scarred easily. Yet they stood tall, looked directly into alien eyes, and spoke without fear. They smiled. Lyra watched them from the edge of the welcome hall, leaning lightly on her support staff. No one asked her to leave, but no one invited her closer either. The humans moved differently. They talked with their hands. They laughed loudly. They stood close to one another, even when space was available. One human, in particular, caught her attention. He was not tall by Avaris standards. His shoulders were narrow, his steps unbalanced in a way that felt familiar. He carried tools instead of weapons and listened more than he spoke. His name was Evan. Lyra heard it when another human called out to him, teasing him for being late. Evan turned, smiled, and apologized, even though no rule required it. Lyra frowned slightly. On Avaris, apologies were only made for errors in calculation, not feelings. Over the next few cycles, 80 humans were assigned observers from Avaris society. Scholars, soldiers, leaders. Lyra was assigned to no one. Still, she found herself near the human areas often, not because she was ordered to be there, but because, for the first time, no one looked away when she arrived. Humans noticed her. They did not stare. They did not whisper. They simply adjusted. One moved a chair closer, so she would not have to stand. Another slowed their walking pace without comment, and these small acts confused her more than rejection ever had. One cycle, while studying energy flow near the human engineering zone, Lyra miscalculated a step. Her support staff slipped. She did not fall, but she stumbled enough to draw attention. Before she could steady herself, Evan was there. Not rushing, not panicking, just present. Are you okay? He asked. The question startled her. Not status acceptable, not damage confirmed, just okay. I am functional, Lyra replied carefully. Evan smiled, soft and brief. Good. Still, do you want help? She hesitated. On Avaris, accepting help meant confirming weakness, but something in his tone held no judgment. Yes, she said. He offered his arm, not his hand. He waited until she chose how to take it. That choice mattered more to her than he could know. They began talking after that. Not formally, not officially. Just talking. Evan asked about her work. She explained her research on harmonic energy patterns, how small variations could stabilize entire systems. He listened closely, asking questions that showed real understanding. You see things others miss, he said once. Lyra blinked. They do not miss them. They do not look. Evan nodded. Same thing sometimes. She learned about Earth, about storms, oceans, cities built by trial and error. Humans had survived not by being perfect, but by adapting when they were not. That sounds inefficient, Lyra said. Evan laughed. It is, but it works. For the first time, Lyra wondered if efficiency was the only path to survival. One evening, as the twin suns dipped low, they sat together on a platform overlooking the city. The light reflected off crystal towers, painting everything in gold. Lyra watched bonded pairs pass below. They are choosing life partners, Evan said quietly. Yes, Lyra replied. They will strengthen the species. He glanced at her. And you? I was not selected. He waited, did not interrupt, did not fill the silence. I never will be, she added. Why? He asked. She turned to face him fully. Because I am incomplete. Evan studied her carefully. Not her leg, not her staff, but her face. On Earth, he said slowly, we have a different idea of complete. She tilted her head. Explain. We think completeness is not about parts working perfectly, he said. It's about choosing to stand with someone anyway. Her chest tightened in a way she did not understand. That is illogical, she said. Maybe, Evan replied. But humans survive a lot of illogical things. The next cycle, the council announced new bonding evaluations. Lyra did not attend. She remained in her quarters, organizing data that no one had asked for. She told herself it did not matter. Then there was a sound at her doorway. A pause. A breath. Lyra? Evan's voice. Her heart raced. She did not know why. Yes? I hope this isn't wrong, he said. But I wanted to ask you something. She opened the door. He stood there, hands clasped, nervous in a way no Avaris citizen would ever show. In your culture, he said carefully, bonding is about strengthening the future, right? Yes. And it's about choice? She hesitated. Ideally. Evan nodded once, as if confirming something for himself. Then, he said, meeting her eyes, but I want to make a choice. Her breath caught. Lyra, he said, voice steady but soft. Would you consider forming a life bond with me? The world did not shatter. The towers did not fall. But something deep inside Lyra cracked open. No one had ever asked her before. Not the council. Not her people. Not fate. A human had. And for the first time in her life, Lyra did not know how to answer. Lyra did not answer right away. She stood in the doorway, and the soft lights of her quarters behind her, the quiet hall stretching out in front. Evan's question stayed in the air between them, heavy but gentle. No one had ever given her time to choose. On Avaris, choices were decided by charts and numbers. A body was measured, a mind was tested, a result was given, the individual only accepted. But Evan waited. His face showed no demand, no expectation, just patience. "I do not understand," Lyra finally said. "And you are aware of my condition?" "Yes," Evan replied. "I am." "And you know my people consider me unsuitable?" "I know." "Then why?" she asked. Evan exhaled slowly. "Because suitability depends on what you value." Lyra's fingers tightened around her staff. "And what do humans value?" He thought for a moment. "The ability to choose who we stand with, especially when it would be easier not to." That answer unsettled her. She looked away toward the city lights. "If I accept, you will face consequences." "I already do," Evan said calmly. That surprised her. "Explain." "Some humans think bonding with another species is risky," he said. "Others think choosing someone your society rejects is foolish. And you?" "I think listening to them would be easier," he admitted. "But wrong." Lyra felt something warm and sharp in her chest. She had spent her whole life believing that ease was the highest goal. "Then," she said slowly, "I will consider your request." Evan smiled, not wide, not proud, just relieved. "That's all I hoped for," he said. The next cycle, the city noticed. It started with whispers. An Avaris scholar was seen speaking privately with a human, not in a hall, not during assigned hours, but walking together, slowly, matching pace. Observers recorded it. Data flagged it. By the next day, the council requested Lyra's presence. She stood before them, alone. Crystal panels glowed with her profile, her measurements, her limitations. "State the nature of your interaction with the human Evan," one counselor said. "We converse," Lyra replied. "We exchange ideas." "Why?" "Because it is beneficial." "Define beneficial," another asked. She lifted her chin. "He listens." Silence followed. "Listening is not a measurable output," the counselor said. "It should be," Lyra answered. That response caused discomfort. She could see it in the slight shift of posture, the tightening of hands. "Is it true," the lead counselor asked, "that the human has proposed a life bond?" Lyra paused. "Yes." Murmurs spread through the chamber. "This is unacceptable," one said. "This weakens social order," another added. "It sets a dangerous example." Lyra's voice remained calm. "I was never an example before." "That was appropriate," the lead counselor replied. Something in Lyra hardened. "Then, perhaps," she said, "the standard is flawed." The council dismissed her without a ruling, and that was worse than rejection. Uncertainty spread faster than denial. Evan was called before human leadership the same cycle. They did not threaten him. They did not command him. They asked questions. "Do you understand the political impact?" "Yes." "Do you understand the personal risk?" "Yes." "Why continue?" Evan answered simply. "Because she deserves the right to choose, and so do I." Some nodded, others frowned, but no one stopped him. Humans were used to disagreement, and they survived it daily. As days passed, Lyra and Evan spent more time together, now under quiet observation. Lyra showed Evan her work, complex harmonic patterns that stabilize city energy grids. Patterns others had dismissed as unnecessary refinement. Evan studied them closely. "These small adjustments," he said, pointing, "they reduce long-term strain." "Yes," Lyra replied, "by less than 1%. "That's huge," Evan said. Her eyes widened. "It is?" "Over time," he said, "no small advantages decide survival." No one on Avaris had ever said that to her. They had told her she was too small to matter. Then the crisis came. Without warning, a deep energy fluctuation rippled through the lower city rings. Lights dimmed, transport lines stalled, shields weakened. Panic was controlled, but fear spread. Engineers rushed to correct the issue, following standard procedures. They failed. Lyra felt it immediately. "The resonance is off," she said. Evan looked at her. "Can you fix it?" "Yes," she replied, "but the correction is not approved." Approval took time. Time they did not have. Evan activated his communicator. "We have a solution," he told command, "but it comes from Lyra." Silence followed. Then, "She is not authorized." Evan looked at Lyra. "Do it anyway." She hesitated. Disobedience on Avaris carried consequences, but the city trembled. "I need access to the control lattice," she said. Evan did not hesitate. Nina helped her move faster than she ever had before. Not by carrying her, but by clearing paths, adjusting systems, adapting to her pace. Together, they reached the core. Lyra input her adjustments, tiny shifts, precise and careful. The tremor faded, power stabilized. The city held. The council watched the data in silence. It was undeniable. The solution had worked. A solution designed by the one they had labeled incomplete. Public reaction was mixed. Some dismissed it as coincidence. Others questioned old beliefs. A few quietly felt shame. Lyra was summoned again. This time, Evan was allowed to stand beside her. "You acted without authorization," the lead counselor said. "Yes," Lyra replied. "And you succeeded." "Yes." The counselor paused. "Your human influenced this decision." "No," Lyra said calmly. "He trusted me." That distinction mattered. Outside the chamber, Lyra finally allowed herself to breathe. "I may have caused instability," she said. Evan shook his head. "You caused change." "Change is dangerous," she replied. "So is staying the same," he said. She looked at him, studying his uneven posture, his scarred hands, his steady eyes. "Why do humans accept weakness?" she asked. Evan smiled faintly. "We don't see it as weakness. We see it as reality." For the first time, Lyra felt something close to pride. Not in her body, not in her mind, but in her choice. And Avaris, for the first time, he was forced to watch. After the city stabilized, tension hung heavy in the air. Lyra moved through the streets of Avaris and felt eyes on her. Some curious, some suspicious, some openly disapproving. The council had not yet made a formal decision about her bond with Evan. And in Avaris, hesitation meant danger. Some citizens whispered that she had broken tradition. Others quietly admired her. But no one dared speak loudly in her favor. Even the strongest among them hesitated, bound by centuries of rules that had always been followed without question. Evan walked beside her, a calm presence amidst the chaos. His pace was careful, not rushing her, yet always ready to protect. Lyra had noticed that humans were unpredictable, but reliable. They did not fear change, as her people did. They embraced it. And this, more than anything else, both frightened and intrigued her. One day, a group of high-ranking Avaris warriors confronted her. Their armor gleamed, and their stances rigid. They represented tradition, the unshakable rules that had guided their civilization for generations. Lyra stood firm, leaning on her support staff, waiting for them to speak. "You have endangered the city," one said. His voice was stern but not cruel. "By defying the council, by accepting the humans' interference, you have weakened our standards." Lyra's gaze was steady. "I stabilized the city. I saved lives. That is not weakness." The warrior's eyes narrowed. "Strength is not measured by outcomes alone. It is measured by adherence to duty." Evan stepped forward. "Then tell me," he said, "how many lives would have been lost if she had followed your so-called duty instead of her intelligence and courage?" The warriors bristled, unused to being questioned so directly. A murmur spread through the surrounding crowd. Some of the younger citizens whispered in agreement, their eyes wide as they saw the truth of Evan's words. Even some older scholars looked uneasy. "Humans think differently," one warrior said, trying to dismiss him. "Their survival is based on flawed methods." "And yet," Evan replied, "they adapt and thrive. Isn't survival the ultimate measure of strength?" Lyra felt a spark inside her, a combination of fear and determination. Her life had been a series of calculated movements, each step measured to avoid failure. But now, standing beside Evan, she realized that strength could be more than perfection. Strength could be courage, intelligence, empathy, and choice. In the following weeks, the city faced another test. A massive energy surge threatened to destabilize the outer rings, the very parts of Avaris that held the lower population. Citizens panicked, their fear fueled by centuries of rigid rules and expectations. They relied on the council's orders, but the council hesitated, torn between tradition and the undeniable truth of Lyra's prior success. Lyra and Evan worked together, moving quickly to analyze the surge. Sensors and panels lit up as Lyra adjusted the energy flow, making minute corrections only she could calculate. Evan assisted, organizing humans and aliens alike, making sure each adjustment was precise. He did not command, he did not dominate, he coordinated. They moved as a team, each supporting the other's strengths and compensating for weaknesses. And Lyra's limited mobility slowed her, but Evan adapted, adjusting tasks to her pace. In turn, she directed others with her sharp mind, proving that leadership was not measured by muscle or speed. As they worked, whispers spread through the city. Citizens who had previously scoffed now watched with a mixture of awe and unease. Lyra's mind and Evan's guidance stabilized the outer rings faster than any traditional methods could have. When the crisis ended, the city remained intact. Lives were saved, and the citizens' eyes were opened to a new type of strength, one that came from courage, intelligence, and collaboration rather than rigid perfection. The council called a formal session. Lyra and Evan entered, aware that all eyes were upon them. Some gazed with resentment, some with curiosity, some with reluctant admiration. The late counselor spoke first. "Lyra of the Outer Rings," he began, "you have acted without permission. Your decisions have challenged centuries of tradition. Explain yourself." Lyra took a deep breath, her heart steady despite the pressure. "I acted because lives were at risk. I used my mind, not my body. And the outcome proves that strength is not only measured by perfection, but by the ability to adapt, think, and choose." A murmur ran through the chamber. Some counselors exchanged uneasy glances. A few younger members nodded subtly. "Evan of Earth," the lead counselor continued, "you interfered in our culture. You assisted someone your society considers unfit. Explain yourself. Evan's eyes met the counselor's without hesitation. I interfered because what is unfit in one culture may be vital in another. Lyra's strength was hidden from you because you only valued one type of ability. She saved the city. That is strength. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then a younger counselor spoke, his voice trembling slightly. If she is capable, then our measures are incomplete, or perhaps we need to reconsider what we value. The older counselors bristled, uncomfortable with change. We cannot allow exceptions to undermine centuries of order, one said. Lyra stepped forward. Change is not weakness. Refusing to change is. Our society thrives on survival. If we ignore abilities because they do not match our traditions, we weaken ourselves. Evan placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Not to restrain, not to lead, but simply as support. The chamber remained tense, and the debate would continue for cycles. But a seed had been planted, a seed of possibility, of redefining strength, of valuing choice and intelligence alongside physical perfection. Outside the chambers, the citizens discussed the events. Some were skeptical, fearing chaos. Others were inspired, realizing that they had long ignored talents that did not fit the narrow mold of tradition. Children watched Lyra and Evan pass, imagining a future where courage, intelligence, and choice mattered as much as speed or strength. Lyra felt something she had never felt before. Recognition not as a flaw, but as a person. Not as a defective body, but as a mind capable of contribution. She understood finally that strength was more than physical ability. It was courage in the face of fear, persistence in the face of doubt, and the willingness to act, even when the world expected her to remain silent. Evan noticed her change. You are seeing it, he said quietly. Well, the city is starting to see it too. Yes, she replied, and it is frightening. He smiled. The best things often are. As the cycle ended, Lyra walked alone on a quiet terrace overlooking the city. The twin suns were setting, casting golden light over the towers. For the first time, she felt possibility instead of limitation. She thought of Evan, of the humans, and of the bonds that could form, not because rules demanded them, but because choice allowed them. She remembered every moment she had been told she was unworthy. Every glance that passed over her, every judgment whispered silently. And she realized that the judgments did not define her. Her actions, her mind, her courage, that defined her. Strength, she understood now, was not perfection. Strength was purpose. Strength was choice. When Lyra returned to her quarters, she found a small note from Evan. No one sees your value until you show it. You have shown it today, and I see it always. Evan. She held the note tightly, feeling warmth flow through her. The city had begun to shift. The council might resist, the citizens might whisper, but the seed of change had been planted, and she had helped plant it. For the first time, she looked forward to the future, not as someone incomplete, but as someone capable, someone whose strength was measured not by tradition, but by courage, intelligence, and the ability to make choices, even in the face of doubt. And somewhere deep inside, a small, unspoken hope stirred. Perhaps, just perhaps, someone would choose her. Not because she was perfect, but because she was worthy. The city of Avaris stirred with whispers. Lyra walked through the grand halls of the council building, her support staff clicking softly against the crystal floor. Today was different. Today was not about saving the city from a crisis. Today was about a choice. a choice that had the power to change everything. The council had called an emergency assembly. The counselors were divided. Some still clung to tradition, believing that only physical perfection could define worth. Others, quietly inspired by Lyra's actions, believed it was time to reconsider. Lyra entered the chamber. Her head was held high. She had been ready for conflict for weeks, but what she saw inside gave her pause. Citizens of all ranks had gathered. Warriors, scholars, engineers, even children pressed close to see her. And there, beside her, stood Evan, calm, steady, confident. A human in a sea of doubt, but unwavering. The lead counselor rose. Lyra of the Outer Rings, you have defied orders, acted without permission, and yet your actions have preserved this city. Explain to us your choice. Lyra stepped forward. I acted because I could. I did not wait for permission because lives were at risk. I used my mind, my understanding, and my courage. I chose to act. And the results show that strength is not only measured by the body, but by choice, intelligence, and perseverance. The chamber remained silent. Many counselors shifted uneasily, unused to such direct words. Then one younger counselor spoke, voice steady. She is correct. Our measures are incomplete. We have long valued strength in ways that ignore wisdom, creativity, and determination. Lyra has proven that strength comes in many forms. Another counselor added, and what of this human? He has intervened in our society. He has stood beside someone your culture labels unfit. What justification do you offer? Evan stepped forward. I do not interfere. I choose to stand with those whose value others cannot see. Lyra's mind, her courage, and her heart make her strong. That is all the justification I need. The lead counselor's eyes narrowed. Do you not fear consequences? Your people may see this as defiance, as a threat to order. Evan shook his head. Order does not define worth. Action does. Courage does. Choice does. A murmur of agreement spread quietly among the observers. Some citizens, inspired by what they had witnessed in the crises, whispered that perhaps tradition had blinded them for too long. Children watched in awe, seeing that true strength could take many forms. Lyra looked at Evan. His gaze was calm, steady. He did not speak for her. He let her stand and be seen, not as a failure, not as a disabled girl, but as someone capable. Then the lead counselor spoke again, his voice softer now, tinged with curiosity rather than command. Very well. If your strength is proven, then your worth cannot be ignored. Today, we recognize your right to choose, and your bond shall be acknowledged. The words rang through the chamber like music. Lyra felt a warmth she had never known. Recognition, choice, respect. She was no longer invisible. Evan extended his hand, not to command, not to dominate, but as a gesture of partnership. Lyra, he said softly, will you choose to bond with me? Her heart swelled. She could hear the whispers of the city around her, the hum of life in the chambers. But in this moment, all that mattered was the choice she had waited for her entire life. Yes, she said. Her voice was steady, certain. I choose. A murmur of astonishment rippled through the crowd. Some counselors blinked, some citizens gasped. But Lyra felt no fear. She felt strength. She felt courage. She felt the power of being seen for who she truly was. The ceremony was simple, but meaningful. Symbols of Avaris culture and human tradition were combined. Lyra and Evan stood side by side as witnesses and citizens observed. This bond was not about perfection or duty. It was about recognition, respect, and mutual choice. As the ceremony ended, Lyra looked around the chamber. Faces that had once judged her now looked with quiet admiration. Some were inspired, some still hesitant, but they could not deny what they had witnessed. Courage, intelligence, and determination had carried the day. Outside, the city was alive with a new energy. Citizens spoke differently. Young aliens discussed innovation, adaptation, and courage instead of only physical perfection. Children played games that required creativity and cooperation, not only speed and strength. Lyra walked through the city with Evan beside her, and they did not hold hands in the way humans did on Earth. They respected Avaris custom. But their closeness was visible in their steps, in the way they communicated without words, in the quiet understanding that they were equals. "They look at me differently now," Lyra said quietly. "They do," Evan replied. "But more importantly, you see yourself differently." She nodded. He was right. She had always been capable. She had always been worthy. And it had taken someone outside her society to show her that. But now she believed it fully herself. "This changes everything," she said, gazing at the towers and the streets, the citizens and the sky. "Not just for me, but for everyone." Evan smiled. "It will take time, but yes, you have started something that cannot be undone. You have shown your people that strength is more than the body, that courage, choice, and intelligence matter." Lyra felt the weight of those words. She thought of the days when no one noticed her, when whispers followed her every step, when rejection had been the only expectation. She thought of the energy crises, the moments of fear, the times she had doubted herself. And now she understood that all those moments had prepared her for this choice. She looked at Evan. "Thank you for believing in me." He shook his head. "I did not believe. I saw. And you were always worth seeing." For the first time, Lyra laughed, a sound bright and free, and it echoed through the streets as they walked together. Citizens turned to watch, some smiling, some curious, some thoughtful. A ripple of change had begun. In the following weeks, changes in Avaris society began to appear. Scholars revised old texts. Warriors practiced cooperation in new ways. Leaders learned to value innovation alongside strength. And young citizens whispered to each other that no one should be left unseen, that every mind and every choice mattered. Lyra continued her work, but now she was no longer confined to the shadows. She mentored others, guided innovation, and showed her people that limitations were often illusions. Evan remained by her side, not as a leader, not as a teacher, but as a partner, equal in every way that mattered. One evening, Lyra stood on her terrace, looking at the city bathed in the golden light of the twin suns. She thought of the path she had traveled, the rejections, the doubts, the fear. And she smiled, because she knew that strength was not measured by the world's expectations, but by one's courage to act, one's wisdom to choose, and one's heart to persevere. She felt a presence beside her and turned. Evan smiled. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes. Tomorrow and every day after that. I am ready." And together, they looked toward the horizon, knowing that their bond, born of choice, courage, and understanding, had changed not just their lives, but the lives of everyone around them. A new age was beginning for Avaris, one in which no one would ever be invisible again. And for Lyra, the girl who had once been told she was unworthy, that was the greatest strength of all.